Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Supernatural Inc. Network. And Mariner of Spirit is the name of this show, and my name is Greg, and I'm the host. And before we get into the people I support, I want to go ahead and mention a few people that have birthdays today. We have Mary Williamson, we have Amber Powell, Ricky Helliard, and Jackie Harmon was a couple days ago. But anyway, and also the most recent book that I know of is one by Victoria Munday, and that's on frequencies. It's the 7 lights, and it's the frequencies of healing. So after mentioning all that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and talk about a little bit about the people that I support. And I support Autographs, which is a nonprofit type organization that's 2 people, Tim Miley and his wife Lauren, who work in the paranormal community. And what they do is they do basically events. They'll do haunted houses, or no, not, they won't do, well, maybe they will, but they'll do locations and they'll do things of this nature. And they usually have 5, 6, 7 speakers for the weekend, and all the money that's raised through the speakers and through the event themselves for the entry fee, and that is all goes back to Autographs, which is an organization that Tim founded back in the day when he lost his pup and didn't know what he was going to do, and decided that he was going to go ahead and come up with some way of going ahead and helping out all the shelter animals. So that's what he did. And secondly is PKC, Paranormal Kicks Cancer, and that's Chris Gaskowski and Alex Wilkinson. And they're from down in Florida. And they do basically the same thing, but they are the ones that do the haunted locations and events. Haunted locations, what they'll do is they'll go ahead and come up with a place, and what they'll do is they'll sell so many tickets, and then they'll take those tickets and everything else and they'll put it all together, and all that money goes to cancer research. And they're great people. I've known them for probably now maybe 7 or 8 years on this particular show, maybe 7. And they've always been very, very good. I have another one I'm going to be calling, who used to be with us, and he's been having his own issues, health issues, and things like that. And it's a shame, but it's Howard Petrie, and he's a close friend of mine. He's from down in Louisiana. And I'd like to see him come back and see what he's doing. He had a foundation set up for his daughter who died. So that's the people that I support. And the only other thing that I'll mention are the authors. And that is Bruce Holliday, Tobias Wayland, Adam Benedict, Kathy Kressel, Barnaby Jones, Sherilyn Cotter, Dr. Heatherly Langdon, Lynn Monet, Ron Iacovetti, Victoria Munday, Tony Rathman, Natalie Jones, Patty Negri, Sylvia Schultz, Amelia Cotter, Rex Nielsen, David Sloan, Christina Bloom, D.A. Wysong, Joseph Hellant, and I think Dr. Rebecca Foster. I think we all already went ahead and mentioned Rex Nielsen. Well, without further ado, I'm very excited about this. I'm going to give you a little background about how I met this amazing person. And this was at the Chicago Paracon this last weekend. And I had the opportunity to go there with a few of my friends. And, back in the day, Chicago Paracons were absolutely huge. And I had the opportunity to do like 7 or 8 of those real big ones. And this one is starting to have the same sense about it as the old ones did, where it's starting to grow. It's growing very rapidly, and I think it's going to be a great event to go to. It was a great event to go to this year. There were a lot of people there that had a lot of interesting things, not only to sell, they had a lot of great, interesting things to say. And they had some clinics, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and things of this nature. But there were people there that had some great, great gifts. And gifts is a word that I use as far as spirituality is concerned. And I take mine quite seriously. I started out not even knowing. It was like I was asked if I wanted to go ahead and try to go ahead and try it out. I went to the first Psychics Unite meeting that ever held in Illinois, up in Antioch, Illinois, up by the border where I live, and I was there with 3 other people that I knew, and a group of about 7 or 8, 9 people that were all interested to find out what this was all about. And it was like anything else that you hear, but it depends on how it affects you and your heart and how your feelings are towards something, and if you're drawn to it. So what happened about that was the fact that I continued to go, and it carried on for quite some time. And we had 4 great groups, and it included Ohio, Indiana, uh, Southern Illinois, Northern Illinois, and Wisconsin. And the main group, the big group, is out of Madison, Wisconsin. And the whole thing was founded by Terry Rourke, which is the wife of Scotty Rourke, who's a psychic medium that is my mentor. So, without further ado, I'm just giving you the background of what happened with me, and I want to say that this particular lady is one that you have to deal with the utmost respect, because she's amazing. She's been given gifts far and beyond anything that I've been given, and I'm not trying to blow her up or anything. I'm just literally saying the way it is. And without further ado, I want to bring her in. And this is Desiree Pittman. And she was there at Chicago. And I had the great opportunity to talk to her a few minutes. And it felt like it was a year and a half or 2 years. It was like I didn't know whether or not I could leave or not. That's how it affected me. But she's an amazing lady. And it's welcome. Can I say Des, or should I say Desiree?
It's Desiree. Thank you.
Desiree. So how does it feel tonight for you to be here?
Well, I mean, you're gonna make me blush right off the bat.
Not,
But thank you.
I'm I really feel there's a lot of energy, and that's something that after a while even the real knuckleheads like myself can pick up on a lot of great energy. And I know that you've been working in this field for quite some time. Um, what we were doing, or what we were talking about earlier, was going ahead and saying, well, what would happen if somebody came to you and said, I would like to learn? And we can start off with that and see what everybody in the chat has to say, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you. I'm really excited to be here tonight, and it was amazing just, interacting with you at the show. And yes. We did some very profound work, so I was excited about that. So I love teaching, and it doesn't matter if somebody comes to me and they don't even know what a chakra is, or if they've been doing this work for 20 years. I'm like, let's get together, let's experiment, let's go out there and have some hands-on activities where we begin to grow. For those individuals who don't even know what a chakra is, I began by, teaching them experiences within their own body where they can get answers that just kind of wow them, right? So for me in particular, the way that I kind of reawakened is what I like to call it, because I had abilities when I was little, shut off through drama and trauma, and then reawakened later. Is I was standing in a crystal shop and I said, should I get this crystal? And my body goes, and I said, should I get this one? And my body goes, I said, should I get this one? And my body goes, and I go, oh my goodness, my body's a pendulum. And that got me so excited that I began to ask everything. Should I wear this shirt? Should I get an apple? Should I get an orange? Should I take a left? Should I take a right? And I asked everything to my body. And so I start with that with my students, doing that sway test. Well, I later learned it was called muscle testing, the sway test. And I began teaching that to my students. That way, if they get that one basic thing, they can ask simple questions. Am I talking to a male? Am I talking to a female? If they're doing mediumship, if they get to something, they go, do I need more grounding? They can get a yes or no. They can figure out what angel they're working on. Just through simple yes and no's, they can get so many different answers, but it comes from internal. That's how I begin. And then I'm a full body channeler. And what I mean by that is I use my entire body to channel energy. So that sway test that I began moving yes and no back and forth, I realized my body began to move in directions too. And I was like, whoa, why is it doing that? Right? And as I began to kind of just observe, use my analytical brain, I was trained to be a scientist in school. So when I began to just observe and go, every single time I think of female, my left side of my body tingles. And I began to make note that happened over and over and over again. And then I began to go, my body's actually giving me a language of different sensations that mean things if I just pay attention to that language, whether it's in a movement, a tingling sensation, hot, cold, the location on the body, etc. We think about Chinese medicine, we think about the foot, and it's mapped out the different organs. Well, that stuff is taught to me through meditations, the different mapping of different organs on the bodies, where different emotions lie in the bodies, that kind of stuff. And it all began by that one simple sway test. So that's where I start with my students.
Oh, that's fantastic. So if when you identify or you start to talk to the student about this, and the clarification of terms and things like that, you must be getting hit with like 17 different terms for the same thing that you call like full body channeling.
Sometimes they can call it a ton of different things and it brings out a ton of different things, right? Full body channeling can be anywhere from mediumship to just reading the energy of the room, to psychic surgery, to even automatic writing. So it just kind of depends where in my body I'm channeling the energy, how I'm channeling it. I had a client just the other day. She goes, hey, can you interpret that just in like what it would mean if it was in spirit animals? And then for the next 5 minutes, I only channeled spirit animals for her. And I said, oh, we got to shut that off if we want the full picture, right? So it just kind of depends on what we're looking to do to see what actually will come forth. And it can be tweaked based on the person or the student, right? Sometimes the students are just better at channeling loved ones. Sometimes the students are better at channeling animals, right? Sometimes students are better at automatic writing. And I even have students that are they bring out energy through singing. So we allow that to happen, and just explore that and expand that.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I know that, when I started, uh, we had to go to the meadow. And then when we were in the meadow, we had to go ahead and make our meadow up. So we had to put the things that we wanted in the meadow that we loved. So, I had a pond, and I had a few big rocks, and then I had a lot of bulrushes and things like that around. But then he went ahead and told me the reason the pond was there was, for me, when I went through the pond, I sort of cleansed myself so that when I got to the other side to go into the forest, or, I went to the zoo, or all these areas where I was going to have to go to find certain things, that I would need these places, and I would have to be coming back through the pond again to go to my starting point. So when you hear me say that, is there anything that you would say that would lead you to believe that maybe it's spot on, or it's might be a little different with the way your approach is?
Yeah, so it is different than my approach. I teach in a way that you use it every day, all day long, if you want to. I literally channel when I'm walking through Walmart. I'm conscious, I'm aware of what's going on around me, but I'm also channeling energy throughout my day. And so I teach my students how to channel in any circumstance as well. Necessarily in this case, need to go to a specific spot. We can do it all just by tuning into the body, and then having tools to be able to handle different situations, right? How to raise the vibration, right? If something begins to not feel well, what do we do, right? How do we um, control the intention of what is allowed in and what is not allowed in, right? How do we call in guides, and which guides do we call in for what situations? And then how do we even read the energy of the room to even know what's happening and confirm with our guides how to do, this, that, or another during the channeling?
Have you ever done gallery readings?
So I actually do this really cool thing, and I only am giggling because I enjoy it so much. Um, I do what's called soul blessing gallery readings. So when I think of mediumship or gallery readings, I think of mediumship, and you're reading the energy of people's loved ones. So what I like to do is read the energy of the person in front of me. So a soul blessing is where I place my hand in front of somebody's heart chakra, behind their heart chakra, and then I say a quick prayer for them. What's in the highest good for the individual in front of me? From there, I'll drain off their yuck energy, I'll raise their vibration, and then I'll start getting an intuitive message that I'll walk them through while I'm doing energy work. So, as I said, I'm a full body channeler. So, whatever happens on my client's body, I feel on my body. So, for instance, if you have shoulder pain, I'm going to feel shoulder pain, I'm going to clear it. If you have an imbalance in your chakras, I'm going to feel it, I'm going to clear it, right? All sorts of other things. I could see the mitochondria in the body. I can see the pH level, the balance in the masculine and feminine. I can feel all of that within my body. And then I just kind of energy adjust as I'm called to do. So when I do gallery readings, it's like I get this energy where I'm called to go to a certain person, and then I feel something on my body and I have to say it out loud, and somehow or another it ends up being whatever is happening, right? Um, and I just find that the most entertaining because they'll have me do interesting things. Like, the last one I did, there was a woman that was really shy and she didn't want to say what she wanted out loud. And so they had me go, like, sit right next to her, nudge her shoulder, and go, "Hey, I know, but I'm not gonna say it either," and then just walk away. She came up to me afterwards and she was like, "I didn't wanna say it out loud, but I knew they would know what I was talking about." And I was like, "Yep, confirmation." So, but it's reading the energy of the person and seeing what they need to open up or they need to clear or so on and so forth. So similar, but a little different than the typical gallery readings.
I the ones that I've been to are ones of the people, a lot of the, like Patty Negri. And I was at one of hers, and she was trying to get this guy's attention across the room in this chair. And she's shot. The only way I could describe it, I could see it go, but it was almost dark, and it had a glimmer to it, but it went across like a bowling ball would towards his chair and actually made contact with his chair and had him jump up.
Wow.
And it was like it had to be pure energy. And I've talked to her once about it. I've had her on this show a few times, and she's a remarkable person too. She, has been using her talents for quite some time. And I find it interesting that when we were talking a little earlier about, full body channeling, it's the same thing as you said, the same thing as mediumship. And, I'm sitting there going ahead and saying, well, I don't consider myself to be a psychic by any way, shape, or form, but mediumship I can relate to and I understand. And I do have my guides and I do have my animals. And, I work on them, not diligently by any way, shape, or form, because it's really hard to go ahead and put in the kind of time that, I would be doing if I was going ahead and going around and speaking. I'd have to put in much more effort before I'd be able to do that. And I know it. So on your typical day, how much of your time is spent doing that with what you're thinking right now?
So there's a difference between formally sitting down and channeling and like going about my day and channeling. So formally channeling probably 5 to 6 hours a day, but throughout my day I'm channeling as well. So like say I'm at the grocery store, I'm definitely channeling energy and seeing, should I buy this apple or that apple? Is there something else on my list that I forgot? Asking all those questions constantly. And it's, yeah, majority of my day. I usually only shut it off for, like, if I have to do really big 3D stuff. Like, or if my kids go, "Mom, you're getting a little weird." And I was like, "Oh, let me come back to the 3D. Hold on." But I spend a lot of time in the forest every day. I need to touch the trees. I sleep outside as much as I possibly can. Whether it's, I mean, my preference is directly on the ground just because I need that ability to ground. And every couple hours, I have to be outside. Like the energy just gets a little much. But I do a lot of work for the collective, a lot of grid line work as well. So that takes a little bit out of you if you don't stay fully grounded.
So why don't you explain to everybody about your grid work?
Yeah, so basically, there is what I see within my meditations is there is kind of a grid around Gaia, and that grid is interconnected to a lot of different things. The light workers are interconnected in there. There's certain sacred places that are interconnected into this grid work, certain even wisdom that's connected in this grid work. And so it's a way to kind of, when you tap into it, you can just send healing. And that kind of goes out to all the different light workers, all the different locations. You can tap into it to just see like different information. Like if you're wondering, like, how Gaia is doing, if you're wondering, what's happening with the general collective, that kind of stuff, you can get information like that. But typically for me, when it comes during my meditations, I don't always sit down and say, I'm going to do grid work. But during my meditations, a lot of grid work will come up. And it will be a lot of cleansing, charging, adding life forces, and sometimes just clearing big dramas and traumas. I don't know if you realize a couple of years ago we went through that huge transition from masculine to feminine. That was a lot of time where I was doing grid work. I was working with what I give my guides sometimes names. I just give them nicknames, and it's what I would call the ancient mother. She had left for thousands of years, and she had just came back a couple of years ago. And I worked a lot with her to clear some of that repression and yuck energy to help bring in that feminine energy.
Why did she come back?
Well, she went into hiding for a while during like the repression of the feminine. And then I just remember doing a really big meditation, clearing this huge energy. And then all of a sudden she started appearing in my meditations, and we started doing more grid work. And then in the general collective, from what I saw on, during with my friends and my networking and on social media, I saw the feminine start opening up more as well right after that. So
I out of my guides, I have two and one. So I have two males and one female. And then as far as my spirit animal is concerned, I have my first spirit animal is a giraffe, and her name is Becca. And it's a unbelievably long story, but it was, when it happened, you could have knocked me right out. I was that It was just like, my God, I can't believe this happened. And it was all dealt with the eye. And so that's why here Carol says, do you see the grid as gold octagons connected together?
yeah, I see more than one grid. So the gold octagons are the main one that surrounds Gaia. I do believe the color in it changed over the last year. We're going into the golden age, so it's becoming more and more golden. There's another grid that I see, which is more the light worker grid, and that kind of looks like an airplane map to me with the white, like from going from person to person to person. So, yes, and a couple more.
Okay, I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're good.
Okay, so uh, when that happened, the first one too was something that if somebody would have said this was going to happen, it was just out of the realm completely. And when it did happen, it was like a celebration almost. And I know that there's a lot of people that weren't given that same kind of opportunity as I was. And so I was very thankful for that. At the same time, is there should you always constantly repeat that thankfulness?
Oh, every day you should be grateful.
Well,
All
I'm
day.
grateful, but I mean, as far as each one of them, because they all come under different circumstances. You know what I mean? I didn't get three guides in one day.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a long period of time to have to get my first one.
Mm-hmm.
I had 30 plus trips into the forest to get my first guide.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it was hard work, but it was work that I'm honestly thankful about. And the third one was even more mind-boggling because it was that was the female. And I had no idea until I had confirmation later down the road. It was like, well, I don't have any connection with her. And then there was a picture of her that was taken back in the 30s before she even changed her hair color, or late 20s, early 30s. And she originally she was a brunette. And there's a picture of her. And for some reason, I went to this page and I found this picture. And I went ahead and I looked at it. And there in front of her, sitting right on her lap, was a white rabbit.
Mm.
And I flipped out, completely. It was like, I my generation, all dealt with the psychedelics and all that stuff from the 60s, even before I went overseas. And it was like, they have things happen was all here, but it wasn't it wasn't thorough. It was there and then it went. It was like a Dennis Hopper type thing. Today, as far as your spirituality is concerned, this is a lifetime of growth, and it comes in different ways, shapes, and forms. And when you see it, sometimes it comes to you real easy, and then there's other times that you go, "Well, that didn't work," and then 2 days later, slammo, it's right there and it's on you. Is that the way it should happen to everyone, or is that a way of looking at it? it am I versing it correct? Am I saying it correctly or not?
So if you're asking the question, does it take a while to open to guides, and the fact that yes, sometimes it's more in here and then it goes if you do psychedelics, but then when it's the true guide, it stays with you, but it takes a little while to tune in. And sometimes they're there and sometimes they're not. For me in particular, in my experience, I have videos of when I first began to channel. And the very first um, animal that I channeled was a panther. And I remember it took me several minutes just to get the animal came through, and then I was clawing and I was breaking energy up, and kind of the panther's a really good healer. So I was just breaking it down in chunks to be able to move that energy. And that did take several minutes. Well, as I practice now, and you fast forward, I went to Contact in the Desert, which is one of the largest UFO conferences in the United States. I was there. I met a woman. She channeled animal or ocean animals. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I usually do land animals. Let me check this out. And 5 minutes into the class, she told her story, so on and so forth. And she goes, all right, let's, tune into the animals and see what we get. And within the next 2 or 3 minutes, I downloaded over a dozen species of animals like that. Bam, 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 bam. And I could channel every single one of them to the point where I was channeling an entire pod of dolphins. So everybody's different. They open up at different rates. They channel at different rates. Some people channel individual beings and they're very good at channeling like one being, right? And they are so connected to that one being, and that's awesome. There's other people that are really good at channeling loved ones. So the mediumship, and there's other people that are really good at channeling collectives of beings, right? So there's no one right or wrong way. There's no like has to do it this way or that way. It's just figuring out really where's your passion, right? My mom did a little bit more of the mediumship of people, right? Loved ones. And so I was probably like, that's not for me. Let me go with like, the angels and the animals. That sounds way better. So, but there's other times where, that does come in and I need to do that for people. So I do that too.
That's amazing. I know anytime you talk about, especially now, everything is on the sea compared to before. And I was on a trip to Alaska, and I got to see up close and personal big whales, and it was just so eye opening that the only thing I could say when I got back to the room was I was grateful, because I thought I would never see anything like that. And it just took me and opened up took a whole room full and just opened that all up that before wasn't even there. And so now every time I see stuff on Facebook and stuff, and I want to share with people, I just start sharing like crazy. And some people think I'm out of my frigging mind, because, it's a lot of it all the way from octopi to whales.
Yeah.
But, I love whales. I love orcas. And, I used to swim with them down in the Turks and Caicos. I've been there. I've done that when I was younger. And, I had the opportunity to I was an adult, and the only thing I have not experienced really is an octopi. And for some reason, it's went right up to number one on my list, because I've been a fisherman for a long time, and I would keep it right there if I could. And I don't know if it's got to be part of it. Yet I have no spirit animal that's in the water yet. Now, what are you thinking?
Well, whenever somebody asks a question, I'm constantly asking. So you're like, I have no spirit animal in the water yet. And I was like, I bet you do. I'm just curious what it is. So I was asking that question. And the one that I was getting is the animal twirls, and then I stopped channeling. So whatever it is, it twirls. And then the other thing that's interesting, because you're talking about the ocean, is in my meditations over the last couple months, a lot has been coming up about the ocean. I mean, anywhere from being asked to put in big filters in the water, just cleansing filters, calling in the gods and goddesses of like Hawaii and, kind of the more lands of the ocean, as well as seeing UAPs and caverns. underneath the ocean, and they're doing a ton of work, the UAPs in the ocean and with the lands underneath there and some caverns. I mean, I don't know everything they're doing, but I just know that has came up in my meditation several times over the last couple months. So the ocean, there's been a lot of transition there.
What is the number one location for you for
That
the
comes
UAPs? Yeah.
for the UAPs.
Yeah. Is that off California?
So sensing the kind of extraterrestrials. The number one location that I sense them.
Like the Marianas Trench?
I don't know the locations under the water. No. I can tell you the one that I have the easiest connection with, but that's on the land, not in the water. The biggest location in the water that I kind of deal with would be there's this huge, huge waterfall, and it's sacred, and it's one of the Hawaiian islands. There's a lot of gods and goddesses there, and there's a big water filtration system there. That's the one I go to the most.
You haven't been there in person, huh?
Mm-mm. It's all remote viewing and astral projecting.
It's probably really beautiful, isn't it?
It is very beautiful.
Do you ever want to take your feet out of the water?
Oh, all the time. Are you kidding me? Never wear shoes, just always go in the water.
That's what I mean. You want to keep your feet in the water the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something that, a lot of people don't understand when people are water people. I've been that way since a little kid, so but I never had the opportunity to go ahead and understand some of the reasons why I was doing what I was doing. And now that I'm, on the edge of discovering a lot of these other reasons why I do some things that I do, it's important.
Mm-hmm.
Because it gives you finality to what you've expected or what you've been blessed with. It's another gift, Now, when and I know you're well gifted, very well gifted. I mean, if we wanted to compare things and say, this is what you got at Christmas, and I know you don't take it that way, and I don't either. But for somebody that's starting out and they go, "Well, I got this little gift, and it was this big, and it had a ribbon and bow on top of it." We all basically started out with something like that. Before we end tonight, what I would really like from you is to give everybody a little idea of the classes that you offer, and do you do them online too?
Mm-hmm.
So you do them. Do you do them on here?
On Zoom.
On Zoom?
Okay. Yeah. So I teach a variety of classes. It's a variety of different channeling classes for the most part, whether I'm channeling energy and doing the clearing for people and kind of just upgrading their system, or I'm teaching people to channel, or even to channel in certain ways as a, automatic writing, or to channel, as a medical medium, as well as a variety of ways to open up your intuitive abilities, right? How do you see energy? How do you feel energy? And it's not just how do you do it, but it's a variety of hands-on activities where you get to try it yourself, right? I was a scientist, so I love science experiments. So I turn everything into a science experiment. Like, hey, if we do this, what happens? If we do this, what happens? Right? So for instance, I play like psychic game night, and we're just predicting cards, right? What color card do we pull? What suit of card do we pull? What number of card do we pull? But I turn it into a learning experience as well. So for instance, if you say, I want to pull a red card, versus I don't want to pull a red card, you're still going to pull a red card because the universe doesn't understand not or the negative part of it. And so just incorporating some of that learning. But yeah, online is a lot of channeling classes, opening up your abilities, and then listening to light language as well. Light language is incredibly powerful. So whether you're sitting back and receiving the light language, or you're actually learning how to speak light language, or opening up your vocals to expand your light language, those are all available online as well.
So when you talk in light language, I sit there and like you were talking to me the day that we met. And, I was already befuddled because of the fact that I had so much around me that it was amazing. I didn't know whether to stand there or just start to scream. It was that powerful. And, I appreciate every second of it. I really do. I felt that, if there was some way, just some way for me to keep this just the way it was right then at that particular time, I would do anything I possibly could to do it. And there are people that would say, well, you didn't know what you're talking about. And it's like, well, I have a real good idea of exactly. It's just fine, like you said, fine tuning it and understanding exactly why. I think out of everything that I've ever done in my whole entire life, that's right up there in the top 3. And I'm not doing it again. I'm just physically passing it on because I don't want to keep anything that I've experienced under the table. I want you to understand everything that I've felt. And that whole time it was totally unexpected. There was nothing there that and that's the kind of thing that people that are in the community, that if they want to understand about themselves and their spirituality, they and have a sign like this. I mean, if you went ahead and said, what kind of sign did I get? I got hit with the biggest baseball bat right upside my head going about 90 miles an hour. It stopped me dead in my tracks. And it was amazing. And when you think about that same thing, and some people say, well, you're beating a horse to death. When it comes to my end of the spirituality, or my end of where I've been and what I had to do to get to where I am, if I want to be a little, and it's not even boisterous, it's nothing like that. It's just being able to say the words. It makes all the difference on the planet to me. And there's things I've been watching, and it's all related to the same. Everything's all tying together, and it's like I just can't believe it. And 99.9% of it's because of me running into you.
Thank you.
So there's a reason for that. and I still haven't figured it all out yet. And I'm sure you're going, this guy's a real nutcase. He sometimes he makes some sense, and then other times, and it's like, it's because I'm just, I'm trying to go with the flow. I'm trying to, really dig into it and say, okay, come on, you can show me.
Well, I say we get a message for your viewers today.
Okay.
And, let them decide for themselves. There's no wrong or right answer, but if you sense something in your body, I'm not just going to say feel, I'm going to say sense. Whether you go, oh, my mood elevated, or you go, oh, my shoulders went back, or oh, my spine got straighter, or I didn't feel anything. All of that's okay, right? But just experience it yourself with just an open mind. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap in really quick. I'm going to just take a couple minutes. I'll see what light language comes through, and then I'll interpret it in English as well. Now, light language, just to let you know what it is, they talk about in the Bible, they talk about tongues. Okay, the Holy Spirit comes over the person and they all of a sudden start speaking tongues. The way that I like to explain it, it's like energy or frequency that's coming out the vocals. Now, we all know our words are powerful, right? We can make plants grow with our words or make plants die with our words, right? We also know that we use sound and sound frequencies to heal. So our English language is limiting. There's only so many sounds to it. But when you allow frequency to come through your vocals and have that full range of anything possible, then that true sound healing comes through your vocals. And that's all I'm doing. And then I'm interpreting it as well. You'll notice that if I have more than one kind of being speaking through me in their native tongue, it will actually switch dialects as well. If I can catch who it is, I'll let you know as well. Cool?
Cool.
All right. So I'm just going to begin by just relaxing, taking a nice big breath in through my nose, out through my mouth. May I please have a light language message for the viewers today? We are always within your heart. Let's go to work. The knowing for light language, it's within you. It's like awakening that rises. When the time of when you have cleared and risen and expanded, you will begin to hear the calling. It will push and pull you. Your guides watch as you grow and clear. As you heal and expand. As you begin to ascend. The remembering awakens you. Deep within you. It sounds like music. It opens the heavens. Gratitude. Go to work for expansion. So now I'm just asking, is there something that we need to do for the collective at this time? What's in the highest good? May we please release any and all energy that no longer serves them. Now they just went into hyper mode. Akate the Kare, the Kare, the Gobo, Sierra Kare, the Kare, Sierra Bocati, the Kare, the Kare, Sierra Kare, to go to the Kare, it's a Kare, the Now, for demonstration purposes, I did go, whoa, you went into super hyper mode. I said, can you tone it down a little bit? Is there something we can do for the collective so you can show them the opposite? So I'm calling in Mother Mary now. My beloved child, the one with the sacred heart. It is time to help break down heart walls. I'm getting a flame right on that third eye. That flame is connected all the way to that sacred heart. I'm seeing the image of the sacred heart right on that chest. So this last bit that I'm channeling is actually an eagle. I'm not getting formal words of what he's saying. I'm just getting like images. He's looking at the sky and he's looking at people and he's flying around, soaring, but not specific English words. Yeah. So just as a little demonstration, you could see that it was anywhere from, an eagle, Mary Magdalene, as well as just a collective of what I would say the Octurians and Pleiadians just doing a ton of body work incredibly fast when they came through. So
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the people that were here did too. It gives them a little idea of exactly what's going on. So if you want to mention, do you have a listing of all the classes?
Yep. So everything's available on my website. It's DesireePittman.com. I'm constantly updating it. I get intuitive hits on what to teach. So just look at it. Sometimes the collective goes through kind of different things and I'm like, oh, we need to do a little bit extra grounding classes, or we need to do a little bit more clearing on this chakra or that chakra. So just check it out. The other place I post them is Facebook. So that one has the classes as well.
Okay, so you have that and the times and the prices and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. This has been really very, very great. I hope that I'll be able to have you back sooner than later. I know that, you're going to probably be pretty busy that way. It would be my hope that I could. And I want to go ahead and get involved myself sooner than later. Probably the fall, because we're almost there now.
Yeah, and you'll have to keep me updated on where you head next, because I bet you we're going to overlap in some of our ventures. besides just Paranormal Con?
Well, I have September is Canada, and I always go to Lake of the Woods, which has a strong native Canadian background. But I've seen things and heard things, and that people, half the people don't even believe happened. And I should tell you one of the stories after we leave tonight, but that would be a good thing to do, to just give you a little idea at how far back it goes. And I want to thank you. And I know it's 5 after, so I know you've got a busy schedule too. And I want to thank everybody for being here. And I want to thank Desiree for taking the time to join us and for giving everybody a little indication of exactly what this all is all about. I mean, it's just a slightly different way of looking at things that some people may be able to grasp a lot sooner than some of the other ways. And for that, I am thankful.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me tonight. I really appreciate it. It has been wonderful not only meeting you in person, but also like following you online and watching what you do. So thank you for being on the show.
I'm a pretty crazy guy, but half the time I'm trying to, I haven't been really doing what I used to do quite a bit because of the things that happened from when I was overseas. So that part, but I would want to mention to everybody that if you ever had the opportunity to be with Desiree, and if she ever took the time to show you, it's something that happens to you that you're never going to forget for the rest of your life. And that's not flattery. That's pure, unadulterated thank you. You don't put it any other way than that. I mean, sharing is something that we've all learned in the spiritual community, and it's something that nobody ever has more of than somebody else. We've all been given the same levels, and we've all been given gifts, and some people have different gifts than others, of course, but for being in this group and understanding the people that are here, it's important to stay tuned and keep yourself there. And I think you've taught me a valuable lesson since I met you. And I'm going to continue to share that with everybody that comes in, because it's the way it should be. So, Desiree, thank you. If you'd like to hang around for a few minutes, I'm going to close it off and say goodnight to everybody, and then I'll be right back.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and end now, and I want to thank everybody that has been in the room. I am so grateful that I was able to go ahead and have her on, because she's something else. She's the real thing. And there's only so many times in your life you're going to run into the real gem, that perfect stone. And it's important to go ahead and acknowledge that fact. And you guys all have a great weekend. We'll be back together next Wednesday night for One Spirit Connect, and we'll be continuing with the Estes methods and the things that we work on. And at the same point, I'll be talking to Desiree a little bit about that kind of thing and the other things that were brought up too. So you guys all have a great weekend. Thanks again, Desiree. It's been awesome. And you guys all have a great night. And we'll see you then. Thank you. Good night.